Listen up, I'm about to get dope. It ain't nothing but some shit I wrote about a young brother deep in the
What's going on? It's time for another episode of Too Hard for the Radio, transmitting from the future free state of Greater Idaho. I am the one-armed madman, and with me today we've got the return of Michaell Magrutsche.
Michael.
Michael, it's great to see you. You're a beacon
I
of
know,
beacon of
you
energy.
Too, so
I can just feel it coming off you as soon as you entered the. Yeah. Oh man. So how are we doing?
Goals.
How's life been treating you?
I don't search success. I search fulfillment, and the success shows up. I didn't know that till I was 50. I was just punching against the wall and hitting my head against the wall, like our system relevant conditioning over a generation teaches us. Just go through the wall, just bite in it and just do it. And actually your feelings tell you shouldn't do that. And you just said, but everybody does it, so I have to do it too. And that gets clearer and clearer the more podcasts and guest appearances I make. I don't have any pushback because people understand we all have to contribute something very special. And life is to find what we have to contribute to humanity, not systems. System relevance, you can be the best human in the world. You could be you could be Jesus and not be system relevant, basically. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man is born naked into the world, Yeah. So you wrote a great blog that I read the other day on these systems created. The more system problems, the more we need for systems, which stresses more than it helps. This was a great blog. What led you to
first of all, I
let
got
this
the
flow
essence.
out of
I don't
you?
know if we talked about, because we talked about art last time, but the thing is, when I wrote my last book and separated the art creation from the art product, meaning it's better for you, to make a boat motorcycle, because I see your Boelda back there. So to make a boat, to fix it and create it, then actually have it to fit. It's great to write it and everything else, but the feeling that you created it, that you put it together, that you are the person that created your podcast, for example. I can say you have the best podcast or you have the worst. It doesn't matter what I say or the world says, but nobody can take away that you did it. Nobody in the whole world said, "Oh my God, Mike, your things are shit." Yeah, they can say that, or they like it. Everybody has a different taste and they have a perspective, and we have 8 billion perspectives of lives, but nobody can take away you did it and the experience. And that's why you have your self-esteem. That's why I have self-esteem, because I have no education. I have 8 years of school and 2 or 3 years I repeated because I couldn't, with my neurodiversity, I couldn't read, I couldn't write. I wrote 6 books and I have the computer still read it to me. So we have no handicaps. We're just perfect because whatever we are, right? If we're born with no feet, we are still, nature gave us life, and that's why we are relevant. Because if we are not, trust me, we wouldn't be alive. There would be no way.
Yeah, right. It's so easy to see when people create something that's not them. So I'm a big sci-fi fan. I love sci-fi. I even watch sci-fi that I don't like at some point. I'm watching this show right now called For All Mankind, who's totally soft on communism, and it's all girl power, and it just drives me nuts. But I watch it anyways. It's like a hate watch. But the thing that really drives me nuts is when you get you can tell really easily when something was written to be what it is, and when something is thrown into a box. So I've seen multiple times where you get a famous IP for science fiction, and then you get these people who are working in Hollywood because they're diverse or gay or what was the new South Park? Put a chick in it, make her lame and gay, and they take these stories and then they inject their own bullshit into it. So you can see right away they had their own story, they had their own bullshit story that they wanted to tell, and they just packaged it in this fancy CGI type of deal so they could get it into film. And it just drives me nuts because as somebody who is a fan, I love reading sci-fi. I'm a writer as well. And you can just tell when things are forced, you know? And like when you're talking with school, I feel like when I went to college,
A lot of people say that. A lot of
it
people
made
say
me
that.
dumber in a lot of ways. Like I was, yeah. Luckily for me, I was older. I was in my, mid 30s. So I kind of knew what I was getting into, and I've seen all this bullshit on the internet. So I was kind of prepared for it. But to see like what they do to young children is just abuse. Like a high school guidance counselor is just one of the worst villains in modern history. I write all the time like you do. How many times in school were you told that you were a good writer? Me, never. It was always, you're an idiot. Just do what we tell you, and maybe you'll succeed.
Focus is different. The focus
digging
is
ditches at some
when
point.
you go to school, and I work on an education, with educators on a thing, and I'm the worst. I have no education, so I'm all self-taught. But I'm working on an education because I think the first 2 years,
right?
Humans have to learn what it is to be human. Not being system segregated and relevant made system. Where can I use Nick? Where can I use Michael? Oh, I'm going to throw them. One is is an accountant. The other one, I'm going to make a math teacher. It's just, you can't reverse engineer humanity. And that's where the problem comes. That's what's forced. It's they are recognizing a pattern and then reverse engineer. So, okay, Black people do this, Asian people do this, white people do this. And then in white people, there are the preppy boys, the nerds and all this stuff. And then they do reverse engineer and say, we need to take care of, because there are less Black people, we need to take care and reverse engineer. And so we are the world, the song is not, we are one human family. We are one human family because no animal cares. Yeah. We are individuals, but we are all individuals. One human family, because in nature, nobody cares. The elephant doesn't care. Oh, the giraffe looks different. I have to fight her, and except in mating season, the zebra doesn't care what the female zebra does for the male. So those are all segregations, system segregations. Yeah. As a color, gender, sex. And now we see this is a problem. The segregation gets a problem because there's more feminine men than women. There are more masculine women than men. Then there's all the gay stuff, and it's all the non-conformity or whatever. And now they say, okay, now we have to do something. We have to do Black Lives Matter. We have to do political correctness. And you can't, because 8 billion people are one of one. There's no right or wrong. So just call it one human family. It doesn't matter if you're a female, like in art, from art, nobody cares if the quarterback that plays an old woman, because it's about the play. It's not about him. It's not about, I can't be, my system image is a quarterback. I can't play an old woman, and that's why we get lost, because we cannot reverse engineer humanity and then define the different kinds of humans. What the hell is this? And then we all are requested to abide by the hierarchy. Say, okay, we are hierarchy, white people at the top. Then come this, Asian people. Then come this. Bullshit. It's complete bullshit, So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is all commie shit, essentially. Like, we don't like the way the world is. The world is unjust. It's unfair, as it's always going to be. So instead of changing the world, we're going to change the way humans are. We're going to change human nature altogether. So it's all these it's all these dirty forms of collectivism that are designed to separate us instead of making us live in harmony together. The true nature of the world would be voluntary interactions, not top-down control, to try to jigger some result that is never going to manifest in the natural world.
It's natural world. I always say system relevant. Okay, system relevant. You have to do this to get a permission. You can do this, whatever. But I say, when the system relevant becomes so efforting that you want to be an artist and you can't be an artist, or you can't be whatever, you can't be an accountant because it takes more to have accountant business to get the system of accountant business and do all the updates every year on tax laws. to be that, that accountant, to enjoy figures, and help people.
Yeah. And talk about like accounting. So I was a business major in college, and they had me do like 1 semester of microeconomics, 1 semester of macroeconomics, and then 2 semesters of accounting. And the thing that really blew me away about this is, so I ended up messing up one of my classes, and I had to change to a liberal arts degree instead of a business degree. The difference is 3 classes. And what they did to accounting, this really blew me away. It was one of the craziest things that I experienced in school. So they teach you, there's all these different ways of accounting, but essentially we use 2 of them. Originally, everybody did it this way, but then we found out that if we add this different system, now we need an expert in there. So now you can no longer run, the accounting for your local restaurant or your local bodega. You have to bring in a CPA, because if you mess up in any way, the government's just waiting to throw you in jail. And it was just wild to me. It's like, okay, so we blew up this easy form and made it just way harder to justify more student loans, more printing of money, and more diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's really a wild thing. They would pump diversity, equity, and inclusion into accounting. So it would be like, anytime they'd use a bad example of a bad businessman, so like this guy, it's always a man who's cheating, who's lying, who's breaking the law. And anytime there's a good business owner who's doing the right thing, it's always a woman. And there are always these diverse names where I'm like, where did you get these names from? Did you just type in most diverse names in Google and then just pump them into your, so like, it's what they do. Yeah, it's really wild. Do you think you're, look, I'm going to go to school and learn how to do math. Yeah. And it's like, no, you're not. You're going to learn how to do math diversely.
The system relevance, and I think, it looks like that it is the other people that do it, but basically everybody is in lack because, because the financial principles are basically faulty because they only punish you. In nature, in natural habitat, you crawl a tree, you get an apple, it's yours, and you can do whatever you want with it. You need to buy a ladder. You need to get a permission for the ladder. In system relevance, you need to get a ladder to climb the tree. You need permission to climb the tree. You get the apple, and then you can't even bite it and eat it. You have to separate it and see what's left over. And exactly. No, and it's insanity.
Give half of it to the government.
Like that, what you need to have in financial principles, you need when everything is to make more and understand after the World War, one person making a bomb is harder than than have it on a conveyor belt and we can pump out the bombs, the 4 T's or whatever. That is great, but it came to a point where you only punish the system to fill out the forms and do all the system relevant things to be handicapped, to be whatever, or to adjust the system accepted that you are handicapped, and we both know about this, and and there is no thing. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't lead to anything. And we have to wake up and say, what is the human centric point of this? And does it make sense to not update systems? We need to not make more systems and more stuff because they are not perfect, the systems. We need to update the systems. We created them. See, we have to, they rather say, let humans adjust, adapt till they can't do it anymore, and then we change something. And that should be, go ahead.
Yeah. And we're so conditioned to be in this system too, that it's so hard to like step out of it. I remember when I was younger, when I was just into motocross and football, like I didn't look into the real world at all. You kind of just believe that it has to be this way. Like that's just how it is. And you just live in that state. You don't even have the thought that something could be different. I was talking to my buddy who owns a construction company a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about the state and taxes. And he's like, it's one of the worst things of my life is saving up all year and then having to write that check. And we were talking about like disability and this and that. And I go, can you imagine if there was no, you know, workers' comp or any of this crap that you had to deal with, how much more money you could make? He goes, oh yeah, you know, but then nobody would ever start a business because insurance would be so high. And I'm going, no. You're not thinking this through. Yeah. You wouldn't have to give 40% of your money over to the government. So now all of a sudden insurance is a reasonable action to take for your business. It's a really crazy thing to finally step out of it and just go, whoa, I was just a robot for my entire life. And now I see all of these people who I've known my entire life that are robots that just not only are they not capable of seeing the game, they don't want to see it. If you try to explain it to them, they get mad at you.
We contribute by discussing that people can relate to us and say, okay, because we don't talk systemically. I am talking like a human to you, and we use our 6 senses to interconnect and contribute to each other's conversation, because that's what I call the second superpower. First one is creativity, human dialogue, not system dialogue, right, wrong, I'm the authority, you are the idiot. No. And then the third is adaptability. But you can't pull adaptability and force everybody to do the static system. So it's nobody's fault. It's also not the system. I hate to point anything. It's we created systems, we can change them. And not requesting systems stay stagnant and force humans to adapt to that stagnant state.
So this is where we kind of disagree a little bit on this. And I was actually had this part of your blog pulled up so I could read it. It says, we collectively decided to play a system game like Monopoly. So this is where I would have a little pushback.
I agree.
don't think we've collectively decided to do this. I think that this is a top-down system that we are pinned into, that we're forced into, and that it's actually a lot harder to change it than, I mean, what are you going to do? Yeah. Have a 1/330 millionth of a vote? Like, that doesn't do anything. Like, there's nobody that has any chance of winning the presidency or any major role in power that is going to do anything to really improve my life. Like, even Donald Trump, who's supposed to be this great businessman, the first thing he's going to do when he gets into office is lower interest rates back down to zero again and put us right back into this boom and bust cycle where we're finally starting to shake out some of this inflation, you know. And this is the guy who's supposed to be the outsider. The outsider is going to come in and put us right back to artificially low interest rates again and put us right back into debt slavery. You know?
You're absolutely right.
So that's
I realized it. What I'm saying is we're choosing, because you can choose not to play, you go in jail. You know what I mean? We choose. So because the threat, always the punishment.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You play from the threat of violence. Yeah. Like it's the threat of violence. You're going to play this game, or we're going to put you in a cage.
Gentle and say, we all choose to play with a gun to our heads. We have to play this game. Otherwise, we have no interaction with humans. We sit in a cell. You know, we can choose it. And I should clarify this more. But I think I should also add to that, I'm against centralized power, because centralized power, the nature, again, look at nature. Not one elephant rules the world in the animal kingdom, or a lion. There's no such thing as a lion king. Not one lion rules all the lions in the world. When I look at the Holocaust, 14 educated people, all top people, Hitler was the only one that had no education, decided over 6 million Jews to die. It was on a lake. And in the documents, it never says we're going to kill. It never, you can look at the documents. But these 14 people decided.
Yeah, they're very sneaky.
And why is that? Because when you get on, there's a natural thing in you. Let's say I make 100 grand and you make 250 grand. You will find. But when I make 150, I pivot and I start freaking out. My ego starts freaking out. And I said, first I had a fear I want to get 250 like Mike. Yeah. But then I have 150 all of a sudden. And inside me, something pivots, which is my ego, that says, I'm so afraid to lose it. And also I want to get to 250 where Mike is. So what I'm doing is it becomes a survival for me. For me, my image, not who I am. I am who I am. You have the worth in nature that I want, but system relevant. Now my image as being a wealthy guy, wealthy is not even 150 is not even well, but it is well. So 150, and now I'm freaking out that debt. I can't afford this, and I'm doing shenanigans. I'm gonna hurt my fellow man because I'm in a survival mode, and that's why I'm saying if you and I need $2,000 a month, Elon Musk needs 100. Now he is way more pushed into naturally into a situation where he says, I gotta survive, and survival trumps everything. You kill your mother if you're pushed in the corner. Yeah. So you are more. So all these top people. That's why I'm against centralized power. The more people go to rise to the top, the more these are under naturally under stress, extreme stress, do not lose that position in system relevance. They are fine naturally because there's nobody that fights for dominance. It's just and that's the crazy thing. We think it's better when a company is big. I don't think so. I just don't think so. I think the more one human or a bunch of human aboard gets too much power, they think they're Jesus. And you can see that by everybody. Just
it shouldn't be how big the company is, how small the company is. It should be the quality of the product that they make and how it can change your life. You know what I mean? Like there are companies right now that change our lives for the better through their products. Some of them are big, some of them are small. When I grew up, I lived in a small town, 5,000 people. Excuse me. We had an Ace Hardware. The Ace Hardware, you went there for everything. I mean, that's where you got your home improvement stuff. It was just the Ace Hardware. It had been there since the 40s. The same people been working there for 50 years. They had a section where you brought your keys and they'd make you new keys. It was a whole room. They had keys hanging up everywhere. You had to train to do it. They teach you how to do it. You make a couple extra bucks an hour for it. Not only is that Ace Hardware long gone by a company that Home Depot, who is a far superior company, the whole idea of keys being made in a room is, I went to get new keys made the other day, and it was a small little box. You stick it in, you put your card in, 30 seconds. And that's not a massive company that did that. But what they were able to do was make people's lives a whole lot easier.
But they are narrowcasted
a whole lot easier.
When that company becomes narrowcasted to keys, wrenches, nuts, washers, and all the other stuff, then they have to not be specialists in doing a task that's hard, but they have the specialist thing. The bigger you get, the more people you have to, because the system, we created systems to tend to every human. When the system comes too big, I mean, I always see this with software. They change software, they don't even inform you. All of a sudden, oh my God. And I've never heard anybody say, I don't care about this. No. Everybody's pissed about this because it's a violation of your individuality that, number one, you're not forewarned. We're going to change this and give you a video, what changes that you can see. This was it. This is what it looks. Not even taking the time. Even though the purpose of any system is to tend to do a job like a key for many people, and they're all satisfied. So, and they don't do that. And that's why I'm against centralized power, because it gets, even if the product is good, it's losing. It cannot sustain. And nature makes that. I feel that nature doesn't allow the Romans to rule the empire all the thing. It doesn't allow that. And we believe we can outmaneuver that. I believe that Elon Musk has so much fun when he created the company, even if it was harder than now. And I had written a script and I said, and somebody asked me about when do you want to do this, in what time? I said, it's because it's about very rich people. I said, I wanted to do it in the 80s because people had fun when they were rich in the 80s. Now it's total stress. Look at all these rich people on Instagram, and everybody see that they are screwed too, because they're looking at the world and they say, I have all these billions, I live this, I can afford all this. And the other side is we pretend, everybody that is not a rich and superstar, pretend to live like them. So there is not even, they don't see us crawling and suffering, because we're not making photos when we suffer or when we have a hard time, you know. But we always show ourselves when we're in front of a good restaurant or something, you know, or with a star. So there is only two: the ones that are the superstars and the ones that pretend to be the superstars. And so world becomes completely boring, and the sense of what is life is completely gone, because we follow false idols. You know, we don't have to follow anybody because we are one of one.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And Elon Musk is a great example of that, I think. Like, you know, he's being held out as this free speech hero right now, and he bought Twitter and he's going against the machine. But in reality, he's the exact example of controlled opposition. Every dollar that he makes right now is on the back of an American citizen's tax dollars. I mean, SpaceX wouldn't exist without NASA. Tesla wouldn't exist without subsidies, because the car's just not going to be easy enough to produce. And, you know, they're all over him about anti-Semitism and this and that, but he's not free to say whatever he wants. They can end him with the swipe of a pen. All they need to do is say, hey, you know what? We didn't like this anymore. And if you want to keep your NASA contracts for SpaceX, you're going to stop doing that. Yeah. And his business, his lifestyle, everything is predicated on state.
A combination. It's not like they or him. I think he plays that game. You playing Jeff Bezos' game. You thought, when I get to this level, and none of them ever knew that they're gonna reach that level. When I get to this level, everything is gonna be. And I think it's exponentially harder to be in that position. I mean, look, Elon doesn't even look healthy anymore. And it takes all the drugs to just sleep and get that he can work 100 hours a week. It's just, I think that our false idols of, you got to be successful, you got to reach your goals, you got to be always relevant. You are relevant by nature. By nature, because nature doesn't make mistakes. You wouldn't be alive if you weren't relevant. So life is figuring out what is your relevance in human centricity, not in system relevance. Then you can go to system relevance and say, for example, look at me. My thing is no system relevance whatsoever. Dumb, this, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And now my system relevance is, because I'm not conditioned, my view opens all humans' perception. I'm not telling you 3 steps, do this, do that. I'm just opening your perception, because every 8 billion people have a different perception of life. If you have a sibling, they look at life, you've grown up with them, and they have a total different perception of life. So that is my system relevance, that I can recognize. And if I'm never system relevant, I don't want to be Elon Musk. I don't want to get to that, because I know the price. The price is, and every time I was successful, I haven't learned anything from success, and it has never done what everybody says it will promise. If you get to be the #1 podcast, you think you're, other than you get money, which makes life easier, you get sponsored, but almost all 98% of podcasts, 1% of podcasters makes 98% of podcast revenue. And it's the same with viral videos, and it's the same in art. 2%. This is why I wrote now Smart of Art. I said, I can't believe every artist in the world is poor. And in business, which is what everybody does, it's like 3 or 4%, meaning making all the money that all businesses make. So we all, and it's never enough, and we all fight for the scrap. The difference is the top collaborates like humans should. and the bottom fights for it. And that's why the bottom never can rise to the top, rise
Yes,
out.
and
because we fight and the top collaborate. Both out of fear. The top collaborate not because they love each other, because they might lose it, which I say, you hit that certain thing. And the bottom fights that they never get there. Otherwise, they need to fight. And how crazy is this?
Yeah, and it's and it's the top's job
I don't even think that.
to keep us fighting.
I don't.
You know, they know
the top collaborates.
Oh, you don't? What do you think?
To stay in the position that they're not losing their position, even if they hate the job. Yeah, even if they hate the job. And that's what I meant.
Trust
me, nobody thinks about the bottom. Nobody.
Yep.
We think about the top. The top never even comes to a thing. The problem, what they don't know, that if the top bottom is suffering, the top is suffering because we're all interconnected. Because it's easy example. You go to a church, synagogue, whatever, versus you go into a government office. It's a different vibe. The people are not friendly. That I'm not a religious guy, but I'm saying it's a human centricity in churches that's more human centric, and the government often is where system relevant. Yeah, it is what it is, and just that difference. Yeah, it's just a different vibe to it, and we know that, and we know everything. We just don't want to admit it because we're afraid that we have to face reality. And I think you better face reality, because then you can actually do something about it. Then you say, the moment I saw this, my disability, and I was aware that my neurodiversity was really one of my biggest obstacles. I couldn't adapt. And the moment I said that, and the moment I said, listen, I started telling people that I don't have an education. I start to be transparent, which is one thing that we can make life easier for the person. For the person that wants to hide things, it's always harder than to be transparent to other and saying, like you and me, we are very transparent about our lives. And I think it makes it easier for other people to relate. Instead of you doing a system relevant, look at the AI stuff that happens right now. Nobody knew all of a sudden, because a system that is so powerful should never be transparent. It needs to be forced. There's so much concentrated power and money, should never be. We should never allow that, because otherwise we have to get the consequences. We have to put rules into play that not everything that is bigger, like that gets to a state level, needs to be transparent, so that we cannot have opaque bullshit running on top. And all of a sudden stuff happen and we have to just take it. Okay, a virus, you got to take this. Okay, a war. When people know they have influence on a war, because that war is the same thing. It's making the bottom believe that the other one wants to harm you, out of human. And no human ever wanted war unless system leaders. No human that lives in any town from Sparta to now said, great, okay, let's have war. Let's fight them. Nobody, because everybody, I'm losing everything. Yeah. So it's always the centralized power. And that's why I say we need to decentralize the power. I'm not against system. I always say that people always say, you against, update the system that it cannot go beyond a certain point. And you can expand the system horizontally and not vertically, where you are in the ether and nobody knows what you're doing. That's
And I'm not too fired up on this AI thing. I think that they're kind of just using ChatGPT as a way to kind of amplify this fear tactics of here it comes, it's going to destroy you. But it really is the ultimate false idol and central controller. They've how many times has socialism failed throughout the planet? Look at what our federal government is. We've got 800 military bases around the world. We're $30
It's
trillion
right.
in
And tell
debt, and we're
ourselves
just print,
we're doing the right thing.
print. People are losing their faith in this stuff, and they see it, and they're going, "Hey, look, let's get this. We can say this AI. It's so much smarter than us. I mean, it's got to be better. It's going to show us a better way of doing things."
Trumps AI. AI has
And
nothing. In a previous podcast, the host said, "He said self-awareness trumps AI any day, because you can't. But if you're not self-aware, you can't even ask AI what to do. You know?
Yeah, I like to say that the human mind created the computer, not the other way around.
All systems,
as far as we know,
can adjust them to our needs. And what is a system? It helps us to do medial tasks that we can create that we expand our human potential. So not that we all of a sudden. Remember, I always said this that this sparked me so much, and I'm old enough to tell you that story. When the computer came, they said, "What are you going to do, Michael, with all the time you have and all the money you're going to make?" And I haven't found any person that got a PC or a Mac and they have all the time in the world and they have all the money in the world. We produce 8 times as much output since the computer, system output, not for us, system. If system relevant output since the computer,
not individual
is 8
output.
times per person. And where's 8 times more time? Where's 8 times more money? Nowhere. And the same thing they say, well, AI. Before a computer, you got perhaps 4 letters, 10 letters. If you're a big company, 20 letters. Now you get 200 emails. What do you think AI is going to do? AI, you're going to get 1,000 emails, and they all look like I send them to you, like buddies send them to you. So where's the saving of time? You have to sort out the emails to not lose that thing, or do you have to make a new system that only the emails that you know are friends can only reach you? And then you segregate more again. You segregate instead of coming together.
Yeah.
So when our unawareness of this and our lack to make money, and it's never enough, and that you cannot have enough money, is when is it enough? Our enoughness is nothing. We are enough by nature. Everybody's equal to by nature. But in system relevance, you have a different color. You come from a different place. You come from a different income class. You are categorized, and that segregates. Yeah.
It's diversity, equity, and inclusion. When I was in school, again, I'll tell them their school story. We were doing a communications class, and the teacher was like, "All right, we're going to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion." And I'm like, I get excited. I'm like, "Oh boy, here we go. Here's the fun stuff. Like, this guy's going to go crazy, and I'm going to get to have a good time." Turned out he was like a single father who had just been through the ringer in the legal justice system for custody, and he was all against it. And he was like, "I got to be careful here because they want me to." It's so wild to see like him walking. And
he shouldn't. He just said, "This is my experience. I'm one of 8 billion, and this is my experience. Doesn't matter what color I am, what gender I am, what sexuality I'm in. Mm-hmm. This is because we need to tell stories. That's why podcasts are so powerful, because people relate to it. They're not going to get, you don't have a team of 40 in the back that writing you a news story, that just to manipulate people to keep listening, to sell you advertising. It's 2 people talking to each other. And I always say this to Alex. I say, podcasts are one, if anything saves us, it's the podcast. It's really, because people can relate to it when 2 people talk.
Yeah.
And especially when they don't talk about, what did you compute this new program? It was system relevant. When we don't talk system relevant, just about human experiences, their perspective opens. And it's all about opening perspective. It's not I'm right, you're wrong. We are both right. And there is no wrong in nature. In nature, there's no wrong. The wrong is when you're not system relevant. When you do something and 90% of the system says one thing, but it doesn't matter if 8 billion people, if 7 billion people say something, doesn't make it right. It doesn't.
Yeah, if 7 billion
right.
people agree that murder is just, that does not make it, so exactly. This is something that I dealt with again.
No, but that's the worst.
I gotta stop talking about school. But people don't understand where rights come from. Yeah. They think that rights are granted to you by the government. The government tells me I'm allowed to do this. And this is, one of the hardest classes I took in school. We were dealing with natural rights, natural law through the Greek tragedies. And just wild. Like, well, he's the king. So if he says that this is the law, then it's the law. And it's like, hold on. And the whole deal was you can't bury somebody after a battle. And it's like, you have no right to tell somebody that. You own your body. You decide what happens to your body even after you're dead. And some fucking king does not have the right to come in and say, you can't do this. It goes against nature. It goes against natural law. It goes against reality.
You can't make us, different.
Yes. And it's so wild being able to, like, as you're talking with people about it, you can go, okay, this person is in the crowd watching the king and saying, okay, this is good. This is the person over here saying, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. But the majority of them are just the peasants in the crowd going, well, the king has,
this is
the right to rule.
There's different species in nature. One is smarter, or one has, play like monkeys, for example. They play with all animals and toy around with them. So it's not seeing that we are all in the same pot. So Elon Musk cannot go to the Mars and say, I'm not going to feel the pain that I feel down here. He still feels it because we're all interconnected. And I think there's a law of the land. Obviously, we say in this era, we cannot do certain things. And we agree. Otherwise, we move on and go to another era, because we are nomads. We are all nomads, natural nomads. And we say, hey, if in Switzerland I don't like this, I'm moving to France. Fine, absolutely fine. But there's law of the land, and we have to accept that because we can move. But sometimes we can't even move. Migration is, and the other thing is it's easier to say just, okay, that's the law. It's easier to say that because you're so stressed by system relevance that you just give up. You surrender. You just say, and I would say, Michael, how did you do that? Why? I said, I don't know. I was blessed with the spirit. I was blessed with the spirit. Yeah. When I hit the wall.
Yeah. Same with me.
I'm not saying it's over. I give up. I surrender. I think I have a strong spirit of survival, which you have too, Otherwise, you will be long. You will be your incident would have gone you.
I feel like
incinerated you, and
oh yeah, they called it a catastrophic, unsurvivable injury.
You're doing what you're doing. I cannot believe it. Yeah, but we are limitless. Yeah, so it's not like I did it,
and I don't know where it comes from either.
Go into ego
it's I open my mouth and stuff comes out.
We did all that stuff, and we are better than anybody else because it just is. Everybody's unique, and we were blessed with that. We are not in control of everything. Yeah, and we enjoy our lives. Yeah, and we can. Other people that do exactly the same as you and I would say this is horrible. I'm not fulfilled. I can't handle it. So.
Yeah. Which is why I love what you said a few minutes ago, like podcasts are going to save the world, because it's true in a lot of ways. Like podcasts save I don't know what I would be doing with myself right now if podcasts didn't exist. I was, I had a 5-year injury. It was 5 years before I started thinking clearly and operating as a normal person. And about 3 years into that, I ran out of stuff to watch on TV. I'm sitting here every day watching bullshit on TV. And I remember I watched a documentary with this guy named Michael Rupert, who was a ex-cop, and he caught the CIA bringing crack cocaine into Los Angeles, and he was kind of a conspiracy guy. So I watched this documentary, and I was like, this is pretty cool. And I go on the internet to do a little research of him, and I see, oh, here's a 3-hour interview with him on Joe Rogan. I know who Joe Rogan is. He's the Fear Factor guy. And you know,
it's
5 years later, here I am.
Every human, because we're one of 8 billion with a unique perspective, you have to express your uniqueness. Life is, what is my energy in the physical? That's what life is. And you got to question that. And you say, because you're one of one, there must be a reason why we are all in that a human weave. And when you don't express that, when you go to your job, and let's say you're lucky and you like your job. Let's say you become a motorcycle mechanic and you like your job. It's still not you. It's still, you like motorcycles, you like the motorcycle thing, but it's not 100% you. What would be you is having your own motorcycle shop and create your own stuff and realize your essence in a motorcycle. So you come home, you're working for another, so you adapt. And I'm saying this is best case scenario for our system. Best system, the people that you employ love what they're doing. And now you come home at night and your frustration, because there's a frustration when you do 10 years working, even if you love motorcycles, you're working for a motorcycle company, you are frustrated at night because you are denying your expression, your full expression of who you are. So you eat, what are you doing? You eat the frustration down, and then you're so tired. When I say, okay, Mike, then you should express yourself creatively. You have no energy. You go and you observe, and you just consume Netflix, binge watching, whatever. And that's what everybody does. And if people would see that when you don't express yourself, it is so not fulfilling. Life can be so fulfilling, and fulfilling is the feedback loop, the emotional, that you are on your path, on your 8 billion, one of 8 billion paths. And that's the feedback loop, and say, oh, Mike, you're doing right. It doesn't matter how the money looks and everything. You are fulfilled talking to Michael. And that's why I say the longer I'm fulfilled, the more I'm attracting fulfillment. And that's why I do podcasts. I do 250 podcasts since last year. It's this March. Yeah, but people love it. Look, nobody would.
You're an animal. You're an animal. Yeah, dude, you're a great podcaster. You're so energetic, and people just, I can tell right away that people just gravitate to your energy because it's infective.
It's me.
You know what I mean? I hope that I totally get it. Like the guy running for the president of the Libertarian Party right now is so smart and he's so great on everything, but he doesn't have an ounce of the charisma that me and you have.
It's not the job. It's not.
And I just watch and I go,
same thing. It's not.
We're making a mistake. Yeah. And I hope my co-host is listening to this right now, because you're telling him exactly what I've been telling him since he started working. He's a motorcycle mechanic at Harley Davidson. And as soon as he started the job, this is like his, one of his dream jobs. Like, what you need to do is take a portion of every one of your paychecks, put it into an account so you can build a bike. Go out, buy a bike, and build it exactly how you want it, and then sell it and build another one. Because what are you going to do? Work on the same fat boy for 30 years? Like, you're going to get bored with that. And like you said, when he's looking at himself 30 years from now, when he's 67 years old, and he's going, man, all that time that I had in my mid-30s that I could have been building bikes is now wasted. And maybe he built one at 60 or 70 and goes, look, I could have built 10 of these things.
You don't have to make a Harley.
Yeah.
Harley's expensive. Anything, just create something.
You can make anything.
Create a new handlebar. Create something. And it doesn't have to be
make
successful.
A cafe racer.
The problem is, we say, this is why artists kill themselves the most. They say, I need to do this. And then if it doesn't, they have the magic in creation. Right? They have the best time creating this stuff. And then they can't sell it. Or they don't get the price they want. And then they deny all the magic that happened in creation, all the self-awareness they get in all the knowledge they get in creation. They totally dump that and says, oh, I'm not an artist. I mean, they call themselves, everybody is an artist. It just, if you don't use it, you lose it, but you are an artist. And this is exactly that. It doesn't mean he doesn't have to do a holiday. Whatever he can, if he paints, I don't care. Take some money aside and make a paint job for a tank. I mean, a motorcycle is so awesome because you can do any way or form. You can do something for the looks. You can do something for the motor. You can do something for the performance. You can do something for the sound. Oh my God, bicycles are the greatest thing ever as a creative outlet.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Yeah.
They're an expression of yourself. I've always said, like the dirt bike, the motorcycle, the way I made my race bike look, I made it look different than any other race bike, even though it's, the same stickers and this and that, but I'm wearing different gear. Like it's a reflection of me. And there's something beautiful about, like, I've always said that I think that the man-machine relationship is probably about as close as you can be when you're riding a dirt bike. Maybe a fighter jet would be another level to that. I don't know. I've never flown a fighter jet. But like, as far as just being in tune with a machine, I think a good dirt bike racer is about as in tuned as you can possibly be with a machine. And it feels like an extension of yourself when you know exactly what it's going to do. You can feel every rock underneath your tire. You know exactly how far you can lean it over. You know exactly where to open the throttle up. You know where to shift. It's a beautiful thing. You get out. I used to go to this race in Washougal every year, and it's up in right outside of Portland. So just beautiful trees everywhere. They mulch up cedar and mix it in the tracks. So you wake up in the morning and two-stroke smoke is, it smells like candy when it's burning, and then you get this smell of the cedar.
I can relate to that because I know how it is.
See that?
I know
like
from
my hair standing up.
It was raining,
right?
And then obviously it stopped raining, and then you go up that creek, and the sun goes through the forest. I mean, you are in nature, you are with the machine, and then especially you can add to this, which is the icing on the cake, if you can tweak your bike. If you have you don't have mechanics, you tweak your bike, and then you go extreme, and say, and then you see, oh my God, what I just changed, and then it doesn't work, but the growth in this, the expansion. It's amazing. That's why biking is one of the greatest thing ever, because it's like creating art. It's like expressing your individual, because I might go with a different tire pressure than you. It's never the same, and you see that. And what is the most exciting when you look at some guy that comes with a machine? Say, what the fuck is this? I gotta figure that out, right? Not he has the new whatever Ducati. No.
Yeah.
You look at this guy. What is this?
That's this bike here. I've got a Buell. So this thing looks like a rice burner, like a rice rocket, but it's got a Harley engine in it. So I'd pull up in San Francisco and and people are looking over like, what the hell is that? And it's a great story. Like Eric Buell's an artist. I mean, he was a racer, and he rode Harleys, and he was able to take the Harley engine and put it into a street bike. And, he did such a great job that Harley gave him a business, which was his one mistake was signing in with Harley. It's a terrible, tragic story, Buell. I'll never sell this bike because I'm convinced that it's going to be worth something someday.
Yeah, you just look at it, and it brings all the.
It's a piece of art. I love it. Awesome. I love the bike, even if it just sits back here. Yeah, it's a beautiful machine. Yeah, man, motocross. It's something else. I mean, it's one of the best ways I've ever found for channeling raw emotion.
Yeah.
When you get pissed off. Just really pissed off. There's nothing better than going out and destroying something on a
really
dirt bike.
A man thing too. I'm not gonna. It teaches you camaraderie.
It is
helping each other out. It's a very manly. It's more manly than female. I'm not saying female cannot. Right? It's a man more.
Absolutely.
I learned how to be a man, and I'm an artist, which is kind of feminine. But I learned how to be a man with my buddies, doing off-road, doing GS, doing trials. Yeah, I learned that. I learned so much of the experience, and God, I mean, it just, and the creativity. You know, you can't get a part. In our life, you just couldn't dial up internet to get a sprocket. You had to find that sprocket, you know? And you know, and it takes forever, you know?
Oh, man. And the internet has been, oh yeah, dude, the internet has been the greatest tool for motocross. Like I just wish that I could do it over again, because the resources that you have now, like me and my buddy, who's my co-host, we spent hours and hours and hours on the track where I do 5 laps, come around. All right, we're going to go 2 clickers down on the rebound and 1 up on the compression, and then do it again and do it again and do it again until I finally feel like, all right, I can move around on this thing. And then you go to another track and it's completely different and you have to, you know, but it's a great process of like learning a machine, learning how to like read your body in a lot of ways, because your body's going to tell you what the machine needs. No. Yeah. And I mean, 7 pounds equals 1 horsepower on a dirt bike. So I'm a bigger guy. I always had to ride a little bit harder than the little kids because they, you know, they were 150 pounds, where I'm more like 185. But dude, I mean, I started working when I was a little kid because of dirt bikes. Like I started in Northern California. I would go out into the hills and we would shoot down mistletoe with a shotgun, and then I'd tie it up with a little candy cane on it, and I'd go out to the grocery store and stand out there and sell it. And it's interesting. I learned a lot about business doing this as well, because I started out like $5 a pop and go, hey, or $5, and everybody's like, screw off. No. And finally, I'm lowering it for 3, 2, 1. Still for $1, people aren't really buying it. So I finally lower it to $0.25. And then people start giving me $1, $2, $5. And pretty soon I'm making $500-600 in a couple of weeks out at the grocery store for motocross. And you know, as I got older, I moved to Southern California, and I had been working in like auto shops at that time. I worked in an auto shop while I was in high school. Like that's all I really knew, like dirt bikes and cars. That's all I really knew how to do. And my uncle was a builder down there, and he built restaurants. And he's like, why don't you go try out one of these restaurants? You can work at night, ride during the day. So they threw me right into waiting tables at an Italian restaurant. I'd never even eaten at an Italian restaurant before. I didn't know what anything looked like. I was so out of my element. It was just, I almost quit multiple times because I wasn't really making any money. I was having a hard time training, and it just wasn't really clicking with me. But I gave it some time, and within a couple years, I was the top bartender at that place, and I was able to go. Now I could bartend anywhere in the world if I wanted to. I've bartended in Maui. I've bartended in Southern California, San Francisco. If I wanted to go to Taiwan right now and bartend, I could do it. I could have a job within a week. And that's all because of motocross. You know, it was motocross that pushed me to be a better person, to make enough money to, you know, it's not a cheap sport. There's a significant barrier of entry to get into the sport, and it makes you want to work harder.
You get instant feedback. The other thing is you get instant feedback.
So you know, that was a long diatribe about nothing.
Let's go back to the sprocket. If you need a sprocket and you can afford that and you get it together, you just experience that you can get something that you don't have by shooting mistletoes or whatever. If you and said, oh, screw, my tank is broken. I can't motocross with tank. But how you become very flexible of in creativity of what to do and how to do it, and to try and without hurt, you can try and fail and do it and try and fail till you get it, and you have so much success because you make it work. 90% works, 10% don't work, but 90% works.
And trying to make something happen teaches you a lot. When you don't have the money to make something happen that you need to make happen, you learn how to, you know, I didn't have great sponsors. I was not a great amateur rider. I went from a C class to an A class rider very, very quickly, but I didn't have any name recognition. Nobody knew who I was, and I was too old and too big really to be a great motocross rider. So I wasn't able to go into these shops or these companies and get great deals. What I was able to do was make friends with the people that worked there. And once you make friends and you have a network, Now you can make things happen. And, you know, hey, look, we've got a set of gear here that was returned, and it's got a little tear in it. We'll give it to you for free if you want it. Just drive up here and maybe
so
do this and that for us.
The motorcycle.
You got
it's almost like the art business. It's just, I don't know how it's now. Obviously now it's world system relevant, but before it was so humane because there was not a lot of money in it, and they helped each other. Everybody helped each other out, and everybody contributed. Like you say, we have this thing here, and you can have that. And you just help out your fellow man.
Yeah.
And that's why.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know how many guys slept on the floor of our motorhome. It's like, hey, my parents have to work this weekend. Can I bum a ride with you? Yeah, man, sleep on the floor. We'll throw your bike in the trailer and we'll get you out to the race. And these were guys who were beating me, the guys who were better than me. But we were such a tight-knit community that I didn't care. I will bring somebody. I will go out of my way to bring them with me just to kick my ass, you know? And I would do it again because it's worth it. It's worth the community. It's worth, like, the one thing that I really loved about it was that it was an individual sport. Like, I played football, I played basketball. I was a good basketball player. I was not a good football player. I would win basketball games for my team, and I would lose football games for my team. So it's like, we win and lose as a team. It's like, well, no, I lost pretty hard there, and I did pretty awesome there. And it's still, you know, you don't really feel like you did as much as you could, or you don't get the recognition that you feel you deserve. A lot of that, which is not a healthy position to be in. But with the motorcycle, you don't really have to do that because you win, you lose, it's on you. If you had a mechanical failure, well, that's your fault because you're the mechanic, you know? It was a great deal. I also like to say that, like, motocross is probably one of the most white trash sports in America because like 80% of the people doing it can't afford it. They love it so much that they take credit cards and just destroy their futures to give their kids a good life, which was, you know, amazing for me.
What a great ending. What a great,
right? Oh, geez, we are at the end. I was so into it there. I lost time. You got any final words for us? Tell us about your podcast.
You know, when in contact with me, michaelm.com, which is Michael with 2 L's, michaelm.com. And I just say, always remind yourself you're one of 8 billion with your own fingerprints, own eyes, and own DNA. And also, never forget, you have one perspective on life. Of 8 billion. 8 billion people have a different perspective on life than you. So there's no right or wrong. So just be the observer of your life instead of trying to manipulate everybody to, you know, do what you do.
Right on, Michael. It was great talking with you. We'll see you again down the road. I love talking with you.